Guys, we have a day chocked full of very fun and entertaining subjects after the shenanigans over the weekend in outer space. But first, a look at the leaderboard. Since I made this graphic, not totally up to date. We had some intraday change. But one thing is still true. I am still in last. So, again.
Unlucky.
I can't lose 2 months in a row. No, I guess technically I didn't. I did not lose last month. I lost the month before that.
Nice.
Okay. So it's just trying not to go 2 out of the last 3 is all. Okay. So I guess for those of you that are not negative, what's working right now? Because for me, the answer is next to nothing.
For me, I mean, honestly, for me, it's mostly nothing too. It's just I've stopped taking like truly horrendous losses in crypto. So Shopify is doing okay. Tesla's doing okay this month. Does not make up for the terrible shitstorm it's been since we bought it, Jordan. But it's been okay this month.
Yeah, I was gonna say all time my losses are now down to 15.5. So slowly improving. It's not the 21 that it was a couple months ago.
Yeah,
But
so there's
still very awful.
that's plugging away. Boeing has been pretty neutral for me this month, so that's not bad, I guess. But yeah, like I said, I don't think anything like really overtly working. More just a lot of not too many negatives. So cumulative small positives.
Whatever works.
I mean, I think I'm at like a 0.5% right now, like positive. So it's not
Okay.
like I'm not raking it in.
I mean, it's not negative, so. But yes, 0.5%. I'm sure you were hoping for more.
Yeah.
Kyle, what about you? What's working?
Well, I don't know if this applies to me because you asked for only the people in the positives or the.
I mean, you're so close. By proxy, you can answer the question. That's fine.
No, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think I did anything. I definitely didn't do anything specific. Like, I mean, I've held the same, same investments. So I think it's maybe just things are recovering a bit.
Yeah.
So it's like it's like by comparison to those dumpster fire months, like it's looking a little better.
Marginal improvement.
Yeah, but so I mean, for the like I'm down, like crypto is like bad for me. I'm down. Well, I mean it's not terrible. I'm down 5.4% on Bitcoin and like.
Okay.
Well, I'm down 10% on Ethereum. So I mean that's kind of bad, but it's not like as bad as it could be. And then everything, I mean, so Delta's down only 1% for me. Etsy's down 6%, which is the thing that I said I would get rid of, but I was gone. I was out of, cell and data reception.
Sure. Blame it on the vacation.
Yeah, dude. Vacation, I was like, oh, no, I missed my chance to sell. And so I was like, I'll just eat the loss on it for now. I'll just tank it and see if it comes back. No,
I'm sure it will eventually.
Yeah, I mean, everything else is like either marginally positive or like, fairly decent. Like Starbucks, I got back into it at like, it's 5.9% now. Actually, that's the best performer of this month so far. Everything else, about 2%, something like that. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I did anything specific. It's just like things are coming back, recovering a little bit.
I gotcha. Well, I'm in the negative, so you don't need to hear about my boring-ass portfolio full of stuff that's not doing anything that it should be doing. So we're gonna get right into it because I saw this first headline, and I think there's 2 ways that you could take this. So I want to know which one. Is this a very smart business move, or is this really dumb? Okay, you ready?
Shoot.
Cigarette maker Philip Morris agrees to buy UK producer of respiratory treatments. Savvy business move for a world post-cigarettes, or really, really dumb?
Oh, boy.
I don't think it's necessarily dumb. I mean, who are the biggest researchers of clean energy?
I don't think it's necessarily dumb. 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 I don't think it's necessarily dumb
oil companies.
I mean, I don't know if that's actually true.
I mean, a lot of them do a lot of research for it. It's not,
That is true. But I feel like they've also spent decades suppressing the science because they wanted to make money instead.
Yeah, but
So I guess the same could be
what
said
you
for
do-
cigarettes.
I
huh?
mean, what you do is you research, and you hold off on, I mean, like until
Yeah.
the clean energy is demanded for it, you hold on to it. But
Yeah.
once that's the way the world is gonna go, like it's like it's
You're
like you don't,
recycling,
you don't have to show all your cards necessarily. You can just show the cards that make money.
I guess it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, you know?
I'm
You're
not
selling a
saying
product
it's,
that gives people lung problems, and then you're profiting
I'm not
when
saying
they
it's.
buy
I'm
your
not saying
product.
it's because
to fix the lung
it's
problem.
ugly because it directly shows that they acknowledge the negatives of whatever it is that they're selling.
Yeah.
Right? Like like it's someone in the cigarette company blatantly saying like, yeah, like we fuck up your lungs, which I mean it's not a secret anymore. Like it's not a secret. Like like people know that now, but like still it's like but I don't know. I don't know if it's a dumb business move necessarily. I'm not sure if it's gonna work. I don't know like how much.
Yeah, I don't think dumb was the right word. I think it just... Something about it just feels wrong, you know?
Yeah.
I think it is just because it's like like that you're causing this problem.
It's
and
kinda
then,
like-
you're gonna
Yeah.
profit off the solution on the other side.
That's kind of ironic, I guess.
Yeah.
I won't call it a dumb business decision because it's gonna make them more money, but it does seem kind of shady.
$1.4 billion price tag.
Jeez. Well, I mean, that's probably so very little in there.
Yeah. It says they have set a target to generate more than 50% of their revenue from smoke-free products, and at least $1 billion from products beyond nicotine by 2025, as part of its evolution into broader healthcare and wellness.
So he's
honestly-
converting.
I'm
his-
sorry, when was a cigarette ever a wellness product?
Wait, yeah, so he's converting his cigarette company into
No, I think they're talking about diversifying streams of revenue.
So he wants to convert the name into a conglomerate, and the cigarette company is just like some industry business under it, and then he's also got his
Yes,
respirator business on the side. And, okay,
that's what it sounds like. Yes.
okay. Sees all the other billionaires making companies that own companies, so why not just stick with what you know?
I know, but I don't know. I hate
I
it.
mean, I agree that it's
I'm
bad.
not
I think
saying it's not a good business decision. I just hate it.
I think we all agree that it's pretty low life, but whatever.
Okay, well, I don't want to turn this into Jordan gets on his soapbox. So we'll say feelings here are decidedly mixed. We understand the potential business necessity, but it doesn't mean that we like it. So then I want to go back to a conversation we were having. This was probably about 2 months ago now. I asked the question, if your business depends on exploiting the labor market by paying less than a livable wage, do you have a business model? Because now, look what we have here. McDonald's says that it's going to raise its franchise-wide minimum wage to $15.
Jeez.
So, obviously part of this is the labor market is extremely tight. The very, very large asterisk on the end of that sentence is that it will not take place everywhere by 2020 until 2024. So they have 3 years to pull it off. But, I mean, that proves our point, does it not? When labor market conditions are absolutely brutal, no one wants to work a shitty job and not get paid a reasonable amount of money.
Yeah. I mean, you can make arguments for like, you could say like, McDonald's is a big enough corporation where they can afford maybe to pay $15. I'm not saying, and and then the other people will be like, that's, or they could say like maybe McDonald's takes a loss by paying these $15 an hour, but everyone else closes, and then McDonald's makes business. You could make that kind of argument, but I I don't see it because I feel like if you just paid people also $15 an hour and just raised your own prices appropriately, then the decision is still between your food and McDonald's at the same basic ratio it was before in terms of.
Well, and didn't we talk about that too?
So,
like Chipotle raised everybody's wages, and the average price of a burrito went up like 23 cents.
Yeah, like I feel like if you raise your price to compete and also pay
Like, I'm
people
sorry,
a
but
wage-
23 cents is not an excuse.
Yeah, like I mean, like
That's not bad for business.
I see where the argument starts from. It just doesn't, like upon further examination, I don't think it holds water. At least for me personally. People will argue that that's not true. Like I will get squeezed out because of whatever, and I guess I'm just not informed enough to, know what is anecdotal and what is more statistical trend as fact. But personally, I believe that probably will work out if you just also raise your prices and your wage. At the end of the day, most people do like supporting local businesses. Local
They do.
chains. Like,
They do.
so, if you just put a sign that says, like, we are paying our employees this much now.
Well, and I think that's what it comes down to, right? It's how do you effectively market why someone should shop
like-
at your business.
Yeah, like, you could turn it into a positive. Like,
Yeah.
we give back to the people in this community who work for us by giving them a wage that is not just livable, but, like, you could say semi-comfortable.
Yeah.
It's like,
You pay your
is that
taxes,
really an awful
and
thing?
you pay your people a fair wage.
So, yeah.
But I also think
up
that
the
that raises
prices.
an interesting question of, like, where does that line move to, in a sense, for some people, right? Because, like, increasing the price of a burrito 23 cents, most people would agree that that's negligible. But if you're going to go, we'll take the burrito analogy, even though the math won't make quite as much sense. If the price of that burrito goes up $5, then I do think you start to see people shift their spending habits back to the lower priced item,
So you're
unless
saying,
of course you market it extremely effectively.
So you're saying pretty much your entire profit margin prior to this was you just having cheap labor. Like that was the only way you generated profit. Essentially, that's what you're saying.
I think for
Like,
a lot
by
of companies,
paying
it's a
people
major piece of
effectively.
it, yes.
By paying people effectively, the burrito went from $9 to $14. We're saying. Well, I don't know how much a burrito costs really. Like,
Well, I mean, the
$10,
obvious
$50.
the obvious change to make would be stop paying your board members millions and millions of dollars apiece, but corporate America doesn't seem to be willing to do that. So,
True.
It's hard self.
yeah, because I mean, okay, the price of a burrito goes up 23 cents, not a big deal.
I don't think there's that. I'm not gonna say I don't think there's a ton of industries. I don't think there's that many industries related to service where that is necessarily true though. Where like all of the profit margin comes from just me exploiting my workers, like Uber.
No,
for
I'm not
example,
saying that all
for
of it
sure.
comes from that. I'm just saying it's a large enough piece of the pie that if you change that for some people, it's going to matter.
I think a lot of those people too though will be unaffected. Like some of those people are family businesses where you're paying your family. You're paying your family.
Yeah.
So like the minimum wage does not apply because it's all consolidated into one account anyways. Like it's you guys are paying for your own expenses essentially as a unit. So like that would not be necessarily like your kids are not making minimum wage anyways, whether it's $7 or $15 if they're
Mhm.
working at your restaurant. Just be honest. That's the go-to, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my main point is I would be curious to see who follows that move and who doesn't, and what the corresponding changes in price are and how the customer responds to that.
I think all the big people will probably just eat it and do it. Like it's like they can all afford. I don't think their profit, like Chipotle's profit margins, Wendy's, McDonald's, Ivers, like whatever. If you're a fairly large national chain
Mhm.
at this point, like the way you make money, I'm sure like if we can have cheap labor, that's a great kickback and maybe huge double or even triple digit percentages increase
Mhm.
of profit. But I highly doubt it's all of it. So like
No.
like as a business, they will survive, and I think they're gonna figure like if everyone's gonna do it, we might as well just eat it now and earn goodwill of people while it's still like the good thing to do. Versus if we do it last, then we just look like the companies that were resistant or whatever.
Yeah, it's like,
and
fine, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and how much of it is opportunity cost too, right? What does it cost you to not have somebody in the kitchen cooking if you own a restaurant?
Well, I mean, that's why Amazon had to do it first, right? Because everyone's quitting their warehouse, so they have this insane labor shortage, and they need the labor still. So they're like, yeah, all right, like fuck, well, $15 an hour, okay, like take it. Like we need you to come into this warehouse now.
Mm-hmm.
For at least a month or two before you quit, because you realize you don't want piss standing in jars or something like that.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting question because on the one hand, you obviously want to be really careful with like small businesses and family-owned businesses and all that stuff. Like, I think we all agree that that's a different classification when we talk about this question. But as far as everybody that you could drive into any city and find on the corner, like, pay them. Like, it's not difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I think all those different corporations, everything that you'd see, like, commonly or like you know, countrywide is already got their, I don't know, they've got their margin set up and everything.
So should there be classes of businesses that different classes of businesses offer different minimum wages? And how would you establish those classes? Because you know, well, however you establish them, companies will just start making loopholes to get at least one level lower or whatever. You know, I will hide my profit.
Well, and this is the annoying part, because in an ideal scenario, you would just say, yes, I operate X business with this many people, I make this much money, and that's the end of it. But to your point, the market is not perfect, and there is a very strong incentive to cheat. So this is one of those things where it's really easy to sit here and I can armchair quarterback my way to anything, because I don't have to fix it. But the interesting part about where we are now is that the labor market as a whole has the ability to fix it to a degree, right? The labor market as a whole has single-handedly made McDonald's say, I'm going to pay you $15 an hour. Now, whether or not the labor market has the same impact on small businesses or family, whatever you want to call the non-corporate entities, right? Whatever you want to call those. Whether or not it has the same impact to the same level of magnitude, I don't know. I don't think we have data on that yet.
So you're saying public opinion will just be bad against corporations that are big enough that the public perceives are big enough to... these guys should be able to pay X dollars, right? Like,
yeah, and I think that there's a perception amongst labor, like actual workers too. Who would you rather work for? Would you rather work for, you know, somebody whose profit goes to pay for their kid to go to summer camp, or would you rather work for somebody who's going to go buy a 7th house in the Hamptons? Like, to a lot of people, at the end of the day, I don't think it matters that much because you need to get paid because you have your own needs to meet. But I am curious how much of an impact, if any, those more intangible qualities have. As people start to go back to work, what choices are they making about where they want to work and what they want to do? Because the other side of this coin is that people in the labor market right now are quitting in numbers that we haven't seen in like 3 years.
yeah,
Like, the number of people leaving their jobs is at where it was before COVID or higher.
I think the interesting thing is I see people leaving their jobs without necessarily like another job that they're
Right.
going to go to right away. They're willing to just not have.
They're
a
tired
job.
of working shitty jobs that they don't like.
Yeah, they're like, they just figure I will find a job before
Yeah.
it becomes a crisis, which is, you know, like, I feel like they probably all can. At least all the people I know who've taken that route.
Yeah.
For the most part,
Yeah.
I think they have been successful. But just like, you know, like, it's definitely a different mentality. I didn't hear a lot of that happening prior, like, to the last year or so. So.
I think some of it too, like, a lot of people are just legitimately burnt out. Like, regardless of what you do, regardless of how much you liked or didn't like what you were doing, the last year was miserable, and if there is an opportunity for you to leave and be less miserable until you figure out what you want to do next, I think for a lot of people that math checks out. I think that's a chance they're willing to take. Well, then that's why I think, you know, the rest of the year is going to get really interesting as people start to develop, like, we're going to go in the office 2 days a week and out of the office 3 days. Whatever your company decides it wants to do, I do think that there is a wrong answer for a lot of people. And so if companies aren't willing to offer the flexibility that people need or have come to expect based on their performance in the last year, I think more people leave, and they start to look for arrangements that are going to be more conducive to that. Like, I've always been remote since I've had the job that I have now, so I'm going on 3 years of fully remote. The prospect of going back into an office 5 days a week, on the one hand, will always have some appeal because I enjoy actually seeing people and talking to people. But the practical reality of what that would do to my routine and every day that I live is awful. I would never do it. I roll out of bed, I'm ready in 5 minutes, and I can start work right away if I want.
Yeah.
I can make a coffee and start work in an hour if I want. There is no traffic. There is no nothing. Like, to give all of that stuff up for a lot of people, I think is a really big ask. And I don't think that companies are prepared to give people the flexibility that they think they deserve. Because let's face it, for the last year, pretty much everybody's been remote, and like COVID notwithstanding, right? Like, businesses continue to operate, people continue to make money. Like, the wheels of commerce moved a little differently, yes, but like, it was far from the worst case scenario, I think, for a lot of businesses in terms of employee relations and productivity.
Mhm.
Like, work still got done. So
Yeah, like I was actually just talking to my aunt. She works for I'll just say an insurance company. But she was saying that she has like her company had like record productivity.
yeah,
Like over the course of last year. So it's like, I mean, yeah, honestly, I don't know, man. I don't think working from home is the problem.
no,
So, yeah,
it's not.
yeah. As some companies like to point out that it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some very baffling opinions on this since it became a hot topic. I'm not going to give them airtime they don't deserve, but how some people continue to think that the only way to know your people are doing a good job is to stare over their shoulder constantly is just baffling to me.
Yeah. It's like, dude,
That's
wow.
baffling. But if that forces them to change, great. If it drives them out of business, perhaps it's capitalism at its finest.
Sure.
The strong and adaptable survive, and the ones that are not strong or adaptable don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Going to be interesting to watch, though, for sure. Because I don't think we're done having conversations about wages, and I certainly don't think we're done having conversations about people quitting their jobs in absolutely massive numbers. However, our main topic for tonight concerns outer space. And the reason that it concerns outer space, as I'm sure you all are aware, Virgin Galactic, publicly traded company, successfully flew into what the international community will call outer space or the edge of space, or depending on your scientific background and what you choose to believe, there are some differences. I'm not going to get into them because I'm a scientific layman. But the point is that after the SpaceX launch earlier this year to the International Space Station, and now the Virgin Galactic launch, it seems like we are now closer than ever to officially having, quote-unquote, space tourism. So, how on earth do we value companies where the average ticket price is like $250,000 or more? Like, how do we justify or put a value on something that is so niche?
I
mean-
it's really not designed for people like in my position, so that's exactly the point. I don't think people like us really can put a value on it. It's the whole idea of why people pay a lot of money. It's the opportunity to do something that most humans haven't
Yeah.
gotten to do. Like right now, the only way to get into space is to be, a top of the line professional. That's what an astronaut is. Like, they're the pinnacle of their profession. So that's not just something that you can slide into
Mhm.
with money and connections. And this is the first time where that, I guess, is approaching to be true. To be honest, I didn't even watch his thing. I kind of forgot that he was doing it until people started making fun of him for like how far into space or whatever he got. I was like, oh, that was today, whatever. But so I don't know. I don't know how you put.
Yeah,
value on
I
that.
find the concept of the billionaire space race to be kind of ironic just as a whole. because you have enough money that you could fix all of the problems on Earth, and you can say you're being philanthropic, you can say you're doing this, that, or the other thing, and like in each case that is true. They are doing things, but to play devil's advocate, if you could cut a single check and make all of these problems go away, and instead you're building a rocket ship to outer space.
Well, they'll argue that they can't just cut the check too, right? They'll be like, well, it's not like, it's...
Well, I know it's not that simple. That's a gross oversimplification.
No, but I mean, like, but at the end of the day, you're right? Like, okay, so you can't just cut a $1 billion check and end world hunger, but you are telling me that the millions that you're pouring into the space, you can clearly get money in a flow of millions per month at least into this space thing, so like you could just do that into world hunger. Like, you could do that. You do have the cash ability to do that. Because it's not like this company makes money, right? It's not...
No,
not,
and this is...
not
so
pouring
this is
yeah. So
such a good question. So, Virgin Galactic is the only one that is currently publicly traded. SpaceX is private. Blue Origin is private. Whatever Boeing's iteration of this is called is private. At least for now. But
yeah.
like,
so,
well, we'll use SpaceX, or not SpaceX, we'll use Virgin Galactic because it's the example we have in front of us right now, but according to them, they have more than 600 people pre-registered to pay them $250,000 each to do what they did on Sunday.
Wow.
did they know that that was what it was going to be, or some people going to back out after they saw that video?
Yeah,
like, that's not space.
It's flying high.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's a question that any of us could answer, but it's just...
I mean, that's a lot.
I don't know how you responsibly publicly trade something where the market is this, I guess, strange, for lack of a better word.
I don't know if it is responsible to trade it, to be honest.
Because, like, what happens, like, obviously,
interesting.
we're not wishing this on anybody, but if one of these things from any of these companies explodes and people die, then what happens?
You're gonna lose all your money. It's
Yeah.
gone. It's lighting it on fire.
Yeah, I mean, the stock
lit
craters.
on fire with those people. That's what
Yes.
will happen to me.
Yeah.
Absolutely craters.
This isn't. I don't think this is something that the public should look to invest. Maybe like in the future, when space travel is more like regular airline travel, then yes, you would invest in it like you do an airline company now. But
Yeah.
up until that point, like, I mean, there will be, if you invest in the first company that doesn't screw it up, you will make a lot of money. I won't deny that, but the average person probably should think of this as more of like a niche thing until like we'll take cryptocurrency for example. Like, the average person should not approach that as a responsible investment, right? Like, that's not really what that is. Maybe you can tell me in the future countries accept Bitcoin and whatever as the official currency, and it's gotten value as people can actually use it to buy regular stuff all the time and transactions and stores. Like, sure, like, fine, but until that future arrives, this is definitely something that goes up and down in massive wild swings, and this is not something that you should really treat as normal. And I think you would treat space travel as the same. Like, yes, people will want to buy these $250,000 tickets because they're like, they're rich, but they're not the billionaire rich, because those people probably don't care. They'd be more interested in starting their own company. But they're rich enough to be able to blow $250,000 on one 30-minute experience, I guess, or whatever. So, like...
Well, so currently, it's trading at a little bit over $40.
What did it
Going
do?
into the weekend, it was at $55.
So it's down from this
So
flight.
it's down, but it IPO'd back in whenever it IPO'd, I think like 2017, at $10.
Yeah, so you would have made 4 times... Okay, so, yeah. Like, this is great, right? It's exciting. I mean, okay, yes, today was... I guess this had a bad hit because it wasn't great publicity that it didn't go very high, but... Like, this is still... The idea is still there, right? Long term, people will still want to do this. So you could invest in this, and, like, just like Bitcoin crashed, like you said, a shuttle could crash, or not a shuttle, a rocket could crash, and then it's worse because there are actual real consequences to like that happening beyond just people losing theoretical money. But
Yeah.
like it could happen, right? Like so, I'm not certain about that.
So apparently the reason that it's down is that they filed a notice to sell off some of the stock that they own. So that is why it fell more than anything. But yeah, I mean, I feel like you hit the nail on the head. It's a highly speculative thing that's exciting and fun to watch, but I don't know how you could look at this right now and think that it's a good idea to invest in it.
I mean, if you have money to burn already, you
Fair.
can invest in it.
Fair.
But yeah, I would not. This is definitely more of a bet than it is.
Yeah,
For
sure.
sure.
Yeah.
I think the one exception to this that I'm curious to see is if more of these people. So we'll go over to SpaceX because I think their business model is a little different. If they keep signing contracts with NASA to actually like haul freight to the International Space Station, I think that's a bit of a different conversation because there's more commercial purpose than tourism. There's actual science and government funding that goes into all that stuff.
You're getting a
Which I think
public-
changes the conversation completely.
You're getting a public contract. That's like that's like massive for certain industries.
Yeah.
Boeing is huge not because it makes planes for a bunch of small companies. It's huge because it makes planes for the big airliners and the government. That's why it got big, right?
Yep.
So
Interesting. Okay, so then let's engage in a fun hypothetical. You can have any one of these. You can have SpaceX, Virgin Galactic, Blue Origin, whatever. You can buy any one of them that you want. But knowing what we know about where this market is going, and yes, they say it's worth, 10, what they say here. By 2028, they're hoping for a $2.8 billion market for space tourism. So knowing all of that and knowing where we are now, you've got about 7 years before it hits that point. What price does that stock have to be at before you buy it? Assuming that money is not an object, of course.
like, what do I have to consider for it to be like stable enough for me to want to get in on it?
What price does the share have to be trading at for you to say this is a good deal or this is a gamble I'm willing to make?
In 7 years, like I'm buying it 7 years from now.
No, you're buying it now and hoping that in 7 years it's part of a $2.8 billion market.
Oh, well, I mean, right now, $40. I mean, what did you say it was trading at? It was trading at $40. I mean, I don't get a choice, right? Like, it's trading at $40. Would I do it
No, but
right
this is
now?
a hypothetical.
Would I do it right now for $40 a share? Probably not, honestly.
Would you do it at 30?
Maybe I don't. What is?
Would you
What
do
is?
that
Okay,
for?
this is Virgin. What is? Well, the other two are not publicly traded.
The other
so-
two are private.
Okay, to be honest, I would probably never buy into Virgin, whatever. Virgin,
Yeah, I'm not
Virgin
sure.
Galactic.
Virgin Galactic, yeah, like I'm not sure if that's the one I would really want to buy into right now. But assuming they're all priced the same, I
Yeah.
can see, yeah, like maybe like like $30, $20. I can see myself being like, okay, I could throw like a couple $100 at this and get something
what
back
happens.
from it. Yeah. You
Yeah.
know?
I would say the 20 to 40 range would be where I'd probably get in with SpaceX.
But like I don't have large amounts of money that I necessarily throwing away right now. You know.
Yeah.
No. And I think part of it is what makes it difficult is like of all of the world's billionaires, like I feel like Richard Branson and the way that he does business and the way that he treats people, like I would describe him as more likable than most. Like he seems like a genuinely good person. But like this whole space thing, like I mean on the one hand I get it, on the other hand it's like of all the priorities we could be talking about, is this really where we want to go? So, I don't know. Bottom line, though, you're all saying no at $40, so...
No, right. I do think Kyle's kind of right. I think out of all three of them,
Overvalued.
I would be least likely to invest in Virgin. Galactic.
Yeah.
or
You'd be
whatever.
more likely to go into SpaceX or Blue Origin.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just like for like SpaceX has like the branding essentially, right? Like they have been the name in it for a while, and
Yeah.
then with Blue Origin, you're like you have the resources of Amazon being put behind
Yeah.
that. Like
You
there's a
do.
lot of R&D power that could be put into that. Like even if they are behind necessarily. And for me, like I'm not saying that Virgin Galactic will have no place, and like like even a small third will be of 2.2 whatever.
Of 2.8 billion, yeah,
2.8.
even third place is pretty damn
yeah,
good.
like I think you're raking in a lot of money at that point, but whatever.
Yep.
So I'm not saying losers necessarily, but third out of the billionaires. Okay.
Well, I feel like Virgin Galactic has had this similar flop before, have they not? I'm not super into like the space thing. Like I know just a little bit, but I'm pretty sure Virgin Galactic has had a flop of similar like scale before, where like they're like, oh, we're technically in space. But it's like, yes, technically you're in space, but it's not like you're not
So,
orbiting.
like it doesn't look cool. Like no, the public was not impressed. I say.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
okay, so here's the thing with that, though. I am of the opinion that the only reason somebody would go put $250,000 down and go fly to wherever you want to call it, space or not, the only reason you're doing that is to experience zero gravity and float around and look at the Earth like it's a tiny marble. So, like, how high you go, at least from my perspective, like, it shouldn't matter, right? Are you experiencing zero gravity? Yes, in all three cases. Are you looking at the Earth like it's a tiny blue marble so you can talk to your flat Earth neighbor and tell him it's a bunch of bullshit?
Okay, how far?
Okay, cool.
How,
Check. We're done here.
How small does the marble have to be? Because that's the defining one for you, right? The small, the pale blue dot. Like how small of a dot are we talking about? Because like where he was, I didn't actually watch it. Like what did it look? Could you see the whole Earth from where he was? It's the way it was described to me. Like it sounded low enough where like you might have just like still seen like the ground below you, but you were just kind of.
I honestly don't know. I watched part of it, but
Because I mean, like they made it sound really unimpressive in the memes, and I know that's a bad source of news and information, but like I said, I wasn't even really aware that it was going on.
Yeah.
so
Which
I
is-
guess
Which is
I
why
guess
the
there's a
problem-
couple of things. You could technically consider, as long as you see the curvature of the Earth, right? That could be one.
Okay.
I don't think any of them are going to get far enough away. Like, in order to get far enough away to, like, see it in its totality, I feel like you're talking, like, International Space Station level stuff. Like, that's pretty high up there.
Well, yeah, but maybe,
I honestly
maybe
don't know if
that's-
any of them are going to go that high.
Maybe
ever.
that's space. I mean, that's closer than the moon. Still, the moon is still like 20,000 miles away
Yeah.
or whatever. But
I mean, I guess technically, did he break the Kármán line or whatever?
they broke. There was some scientific like there were people in the memes talking.
According
about,
to
like,
Blue
past some-
Origin, no. According to the U.S. military, yes.
Yeah, there was some altitude that he passed, and that's like technically space or
Yeah,
whatever.
it should be the Kármán line. I think is the like the boundary for space. But
Yeah.
I guess I guess technically that's the barrier. Like if you broke that, technically it's space.
Yeah,
But
so
I-
because I mean,
I
like,
didn't really
there's, I guess it's fair, right? Like, how do you draw a line between where the atmosphere, like, it's...
Yeah, I mean, how do you draw an
It's not
arbitrary line in thin air?
Yeah,
how
like,
does it even
this
work?
is a gaseous mix. It's not like water, right? Where there's, like, there's a dry part and there's a wet part.
Yeah.
It's not that easy.
Yeah, it's like, well, no, like... There's this 40-mile-ish range where you could say that you're in space, so you could say you're not. Like, it depends who you ask.
highly opinionated people
Yeah.
will have.
And then there are some people who are like, if you're on the line, does that count? You know, like, or is it like, you have to be over the line? Is this the three-pointer?
Oh,
You
we're
know?
talking about that.
I mean, or is
No
this,
touching.
Or is this tennis? Like, like, like...
Yeah, is the line in or is the line out?
Yeah.
Excellent question. No idea. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I feel like some of that stuff's overblown. Like, you're paying for zero gravity, and you're paying to look at Earth from somewhere that a handful of other people in your lifetime have done. Like,
I mean, yeah, that's kind of cool. But to be honest, if I was gonna pay a lot of money, I would actually want to, like, I think go out, like, as far as a space station. Like, even if it was not the ISS, like, I would want the company to have their own, essentially, like, resort space station. And that is what I fly. I mean, not like a resort, but like a dock, essentially, that they operate in space, where they're like, you could do a spacewalk. Like, if I'm gonna be paying you this much money, come on, man, you gotta give. I can't just be like, I can feel weightless on a roller coaster. All right?
I don't feel like
Disney
anybody's
World
going
do
to
that.
give you that option, though. At least
Well,
not
that's what
now.
I'm saying.
I
That's
mean,
what I'm saying. Like, until maybe that. See, or we were talking about, like, you know, space tourism has to reach a certain level. Until space tourism is offering that kind of thing to me, I think it's like we're doing like Halo jumps essentially, but you're not jumping.
I think that's what SpaceX is like. I think what you were talking about, though, Kyle, like SpaceX is technically the company for you, right?
Yeah,
They're-
like that to
they're
me
working towards
is
that.
that's
Yes.
space tourism to me, right? Like,
Yeah.
flying by and looking at it in my window, like, that's whatever. Like, that's not.
Yeah.
I mean, cool. Like, I'm not gonna say that's not, like, it is an experience, but like, I want to
Okay.
like, you know, I want to do some space things, like, you know.
So to keep it in the vein of using memes to analyze this as a source of news, Michaela Maroney is not impressed.
she's
Oh.
not-
Oh boy, yeah. Shit.
Well, that's what you're not impressed.
Like,
He
it doesn't have
wants
to
it
be.
all.
Doesn't have to be like a real spacewalk. Like, you could just have like a big glass wall and just not have gravity in that room. And so I'm just like in a suit, kind of like bouncing around, and I can see the Earth through the wall. I'll feel like I'm on a spacewalk. Totally legit.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in space floating, and I see the Earth. I don't care. I'm not outside.
How
the
much more
station.
does that cost, though? I mean, that has to be way
well,
over $1 million a
mean,
head.
Well, it's yeah, like you're gonna be paying a lot, but
Way
but,
over.
But I mean, is that not like space tourism to me should be marketed at that kind of crowd and those kind of people, like.
Like,
Okay,
I
so then
mean,
let me ask you this. You get to go on a Blue Origin flight or a Virgin Galactic flight and float around and then come back to Earth, or you don't get to do anything. What do you choose to do if money is no object?
I think I chose to do nothing because I think there are better things to spend $250,000
Okay.
on.
That's fair.
But you know, the argument is, if I'm rich enough to do that, maybe I've bought all the things that I want to spend $250,000
True.
on. But I haven't
Also
bought.
true.
I have not bought all the things that I want to spend $3 million a ticket for. You know, like
Okay.
maybe I'm not at that level. You know, maybe it's I send my kids on Virgin Galactic and I fly by myself on SpaceX,
Nice.
and I'm like, you know, then I ask them, what was the relative experience? Was that worth the money? Like,
To a kid, yes.
here's my picture. I was flying around I was
Yeah.
walking around in space. Here's your picture. You're strapped in.
You got little tiny people, like,
Yeah. Got your Nikon camera. Like, press it
Yeah.
up against the glass. Yeah, there you go.
Oh my.
I don't know, but you are right. The cost at that point is, do you have a big enough market? But
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know. Like, I feel like if you were able to, you can't offer that at the start, right? Maybe you build up to it, and at that
Yeah, I
point,
mean, I think you have to get to a point where you have to have enough money coming in to continue to develop the technology that you need to get to that point.
I guess, do people let you does the world government let you do that though? Because at that
You
point,
have to file a shitload of paperwork, but to my knowledge, everyone has filed the paperwork they need to do whatever it is that they're going to do.
to
At
build
least
a-
right now.
to build a big mega resort, I guess.
Okay,
in
well,
space.
no, not that. They have the permits to fly into outer space and stuff.
No, that's what
I
I'm
don't know
saying.
about build a giant ass mega
Well, the
resort.
government.
That's
Well, not even a
question.
giant ass one. Like, just a like. Would you be allowed to build your own space station at all, like of any size, for any
I have
purpose?
no idea.
Even if
I'm
it's
not
for, like,
well versed on outer space law.
Even if it's just for like refueling your shit, like you offer an extended trip that does like you circumnavigate more than once or something like that. You need a refuel or something. Like, I don't know. Like, would they even let you build that? Because like having things floating around the Earth is like, like you have to keep track of it all because you don't want to hit it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then
I mean,
B,
space
like,
junk is already a problem.
B, countries get kind of sussed out when people have things floating in space above them. You
that's
know,
why they made the ISS. It's
yeah,
like,
they're like, this
international.
This is shared, bro. Everyone is
Yeah.
equally spied on from here.
yeah.
Yes.
You know, Blue Origin, SpaceX, and Virgin Galactic are all American companies. So, I mean, the U.S. might be more willing to let that slide, but... You know,
I mean,
like,
Virgin Galactic is technically British, but...
British? Okay. I mean, I feel like, you know, certain other countries, certain other world superpowers, not too happy if they just...
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you'll run into that problem, too. So then let me ask you this question. Since we're talking about quarters of millions of dollars and $3 million tickets and all this other stuff, how many of those do you have to sell? And I'm not expecting you to have an answer because we don't know. How many of those would you have to sell to turn a profit in a calendar year?
Oh, in a calendar year?
In a calendar year, how many times or how many tickets do you have to sell?
There's no way you could do it. You would have to just say,
Yeah.
we're gonna, like, eat this massive upfront debt, and you would be like, in the first 5 years, we hope to make back our money, right? Like, because this is like, especially if you're going the route of we want a thing floating in space that people can visit, like, for billions of dollars of like.
Okay, well let's take that off the table then, because I have James Bond movies in my Google Play Store that I could watch with that stuff in it. But like for a Virgin Galactic or a Blue Origin, assuming that tickets are around $250,000, how many of those in a calendar year would you have to sell? I still think you're right. I still think it's a multi-year payback period. But I think that's the other large question when you're looking at this from the perspective of, is it publicly traded and what is its value? How many of those do you need? Like, what is the margin on one of those tickets? Because rocket fuel is not cheap.
Well, okay.
Building an actual rocket, also not cheap. Hiring astronauts who can fly to outer space and not kill anybody, also not cheap.
What do you think the upfront cost was to make the rocket?
Oh, hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more.
So what is it? So $250K a ticket. So every 4,000 tickets, you get $1 billion total. That's it's gross. $1 billion is gross.
Mm-hmm.
Let's assume you keep how much? What do you think the profit margin is on that? 40%? Do you think it's half? Do you think it's less?
I would assume it has to be less.
I would assume less, but I would assume they're taking less
know.
profit initially. You're taking less profit. You're keeping the ticket price low, so people want to buy it. So like I assume
then ticket prices continue to go down as you
we don't even know if a $250,000 ticket makes them money. Like it could be you could sell infinite tickets in the year and you won't make back the money because it's just not possible at $250,000.
Well, okay, so hold on. Now I'm curious. So if you're, let's say this is like buying a car and your margin is 10%.
Okay. So
that's $25,000 a ticket. Times, what'd you say? 4,000 tickets?
Yeah, 4,000 tickets gets you
$1 billion. So
$1
of
billion.
that, you would get $100 million in profit, assuming this grossly hypothetical scenario is anywhere remotely close.
I would say you'd need at least $1 billion in profit to make up for your losses.
Yeah. Well, because then you get, like, I mean...
But at $100 million a year, in 10 years you could do it. But that's still an insanely long payback period.
Yeah. Well, to answer your question, in 1 year you'd have to sell 40,000 tickets, and they've sold 600. The problem is, how many of those people are going to buy a second ticket?
Yeah.
Well, and that's the other question, right? It's doing it once is hard enough for a lot of people. Like, obviously, that's not the target customer, but how much repeat business potential is there?
Yeah, like even if I can afford...
Is this like a bucket list item? You've done it once and you don't ever need to do it again, or what?
Especially if this is what they're marketing as, like, oh, we just fly you. Like, I'm not going to want to fly past space more than once. Right? Like, if that's what we're doing, like, that's... I'm not going to want to do that more than once. It's cool once to say that you did it. To do it any more than that, it's just like... Yeah. There's not enough appeal there. You know, like you said, if my goal is to see the curvature of the Earth and feel weightless, did that once, that's cool. I don't think it's special enough to need to do that again, especially when I can kind of do those things without spending $250,000. It's possible to observe the curvature of the Earth in a plane. like a regular plane that I could buy for $250,000, and then I could do it.
But you don't get to
every
experience
day.
weightlessness in that scenario.
Like I said, weightlessness is really easy to simulate, though. Like, people have chambers
True.
for that. People have, like, you can just skydive. You could go on a roller coaster if all you want to do
They
is
have
experience free
planes.
will. You could,
That they go up and down really aggressively.
there you go. So,
Okay.
like, I don't think those, like, it's cool in combination to say that you went to space to experience those things. But those feelings on their own, I don't think combine in a way where I'm like, that is,
Yeah.
like, that's the only way I can feel that.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're firmly skeptical. You are
Firmly
trip to the
skeptical.
ISS or bust.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'd buy the ticket once if I'm a 100 millionaire. I can't be a billionaire, I guess, because I probably would be like, well, maybe I could do this myself. But, yeah, I guess if I had several $100 million, I'd be like, I'll go once. But yeah, until I can drink champagne with Elon in the Tesla space station or whatever,
Nice.
not.
Out of your special Capri Sun pouch that
Imagine-
prevents your liquid from floating away in a
Imagine
cloud of
how
bubbles.
much money he could charge for like a private dinner of 10. Like every week there's this private dinner of 10 on his space station where only 10 tickets are sold total.
Nice.
Like imagine how much money those would go for. And you get to eat in a room that overlooks Earth from the distance.
Mhm.
Like that
So
to me,
you're arguing that there's more repeat business potential there. is
Yeah.
what you're telling me.
because like like you go once and then you're like, wow, like that was so cool, and then you're like, well, if I had bought the more expensive ticket, I could have had dinner there and stayed for several hours or something like that.
Okay.
And then you could be like, oh, now we're gonna offer the ability to spend the night at the space. Like you could do. You could,
Tiers.
yeah, tiers, and like the first tier of spending the night, you can give them shitty food still because you're like, it's tier 1 of spending the night. You sleep on a cot or whatever. Well, I mean, you have to get strapped in regardless, but
You
yeah,
like an
whatever.
MRE.
Here's some freeze-dried ice cream, kid. Like, fuck.
Oh my.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't. I mean, okay, at $250,000 a ticket, but then also like, how many people can you fit on the thing?
Yeah,
Right?
like how
the-
many flights do you have to run to get 4,000 people through?
Yeah,
because
and
that
then think of
increases your
all the
cost,
fuel.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I think how many people were on it on Sunday? I don't know that was full, but I want to say there was like 5 people total.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
like most.
I've never seen. Oh, go ahead, Kyle.
Well, I mean, like yeah, like most rocket ships or whatever are limited, like to probably like 6 or 8.
Yeah.
I was gonna say what 2 pilots and then however many other people you can fit.
However,
Yeah, like-
or whatever the payload capacity
I mean-
is.
Yeah.
Even in movies, I've never seen like a rocket really crammed. Well, I guess outside of like sci-fi cruisers, but
Yeah.
like like the regular rockets, like those are always like a couple people. Like like 6. Maybe we're talking
Yeah.
6 people in there. Like it's not spacious, and
Yeah.
fuel's expensive. And like I said, are you making actually any money on your $250,000 ticket?
And
at
then
that
also there's like weather windows too, because SpaceX has a lot of cancellations, so they gotta load and they gotta unload their fuel
point?
if they have to
And
cancel.
they have to pay all the ground crew and still
Yeah,
regardless.
that costs money.
No.
If for some ungodly reason you have like some fueling issue, I think SpaceX has had this when they're testing their like hopper too, like fueling and then unfueling and then like, oh crap, like it blew up. Like that's not good.
Yeah.
No. No,
So,
it's
I
not.
don't know. Like
Well, like
Kind of
I think
weird.
that underscores the point for all of us. It's not that this isn't cool, and it's not that this isn't interesting for a number of reasons. It just seems very, very A, risky, and B, financially impractical from the perspective of is there any value as a publicly traded company?
yeah, it's just too hard, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I will happily watch, and I wish them all much success, but I don't... It would be very difficult for me to justify purchasing stock in something like that unless there was a lot of other use cases outside of commercial tourism.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting, though. I'm very curious to see if and when any of the others go public and what that valuation looks like. It's going to be interesting. Because, I mean, shoot, even, a couple weeks, Blue Origin takes off, and they do their whole dog and pony show and all that shit. So. Gonna be interesting.
Yeah. Who's got the best? Who's got the best pony? I guess best rocket.
Yeah, I guess. Well, that was a fun conversation. Closing thoughts from anybody before we wrap it up?
Not for me. I don't think so.
No?
No, I don't have anything else.
Not rushing out to go buy any Virgin Galactic stock on the dip, so
Mm,
good to know. Best of luck with this week. I'm getting increasingly impatient, so I might start to do some very rash things since none of this money is real to begin with, but
nice.
I guess we'll see. Maybe there will be something to talk about next week.
Nice.
All right, guys. Good luck. Take it easy. We'll talk to you next time.
Sounds good. Take care, guys.
Bye.
See ya.